Hello there and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a primer on all the steps that you need in order to get into PvP and to get it fast, all in order to get all of your Garo achievements and unlock as much Garo gear as possible, with the additional benefit of getting Moogle tomestones. So in order to unlock PvP, you need to have a level 30 in one of the battle classes, whether this is Disciple of War or Magic, doesn't matter. And then the next stuff that you need to do is you need to take the quest A Pup No Longer, available either at Maelstrom, Twin Adder, or Immortal Flame. So you're going to need to be involved with a Grand Company somehow. This, however, does not necessarily bar you from playing as other ones, because there is an option to be a frontline freelancer, and so if you're with Maelstrom, you don't need to worry about, oh, I'm locked with Maelstrom and I can never go Twin Adder. You can absolutely do that. Completion of this quest will unlock access to an area called the Wolves' Den Pier. This Wolves' Den Pier has access to a lot of resources, such as it has a dueling arena, it has access to shops such as repairs, a bunch of different merchants that will sell you a wide variety of PvP gear, but specifically for the Garo event, you're going to be very interested in this NPC called the Disreputable Priest, located on the map that I'm showing on the screen right now. So this NPC is going to give you either Garo gear or Garo titles. There's different Garo titles, and I'm just going to put them on the screen. Depending on which job you actually have geared out in Garo gear and then ask her for a title, depends on what kind of title you're going to receive. And likewise, you're going to have to kind of choose. Personally, I went for Kiba for Dark Knight because that means Fang, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's pretty generic and that sounds kind of cool. But you can go for any of the titles, and any of the titles will award you the full awards, and so don't feel that you need to particularly go for a particular title. Another thing that's very important about titles is to go for any of the Garo achievements. You actually need to be wearing the title at all times. It doesn't matter what class you're playing as long as you have the title on. That's the main primary factor that you need to keep a hold of. You might be a little frustrated with my next point, but it's very important to note. In order to get a title, you already have to have PvP gear, specifically PvP gear bought from this NPC, and so you buy this gear using something called Wolf Marks, which is something similar to Allegan Tomestones. It doesn't have a weekly cap, but it does have a cap of 20,000. As some examples of the gear, you have the weapon Hell Light, and then you'd want to buy that for the Dark Knight. But if you want to get the Dark Knight title Kiba, which is what I have, you're going to want to buy 5 pieces of armor for the Dark Knight. So this is going to be the face of Pressing Darkness, this is going to be the body of Pressing Darkness, it's going to be the hands of Pressing Darkness, it's going to be the legs of Pressing Darkness, and then finally the feet of Pressing Darkness. You do not need to buy the belt, however, and since it offers no cosmetic value and just stats, I kind of just don't really advise anyone to buy it at this point. And that actually being said, remember that with patch 5.1, all of this is going away, so you really want to be putting your points into this gear very wisely. And I do strongly advise, if you aren't familiar with the try-on system, definitely right-click on it and then bring it up and then see how it looks on your character and be like, oh, okay, this is a piece of glamour that I actually want to be keeping. You need the 5 pieces of armor, not the belt, and the weapon, and then you talk to the Disreputable Priest, ask her for a title, you get the title, and then you need to equip that title. Now here comes the interesting part. The mounts for the Garo event are all locked behind 3 achievements. First of all, you have Fatal Feast, then you have Frontline Fury, and then Furious Fatalities. The one that's going to actually be the hardest by far is going to be Furious Fatalities, and that requires you to be victorious. You can't just participate, you need to win in 60 Frontline or Rival Wings campaigns or feast matches while using a title received from the Disreputable Priest. In my instance, just continuing the example, is Kiba for Dark Knight. You need the title on at all times, but you can play any class, and you don't need the armor on either. For the other 2 are a lot easier. Frontline Fury basically requires you to win 10 of the frontline matches, and so out of the 3 teams, you need to arrive at being number 1, and Fatal Feast requires you to win all of those, and so you're against one other team. And so if you kind of want to look at it as pure RNG, you have a 33% chance to get a victory with Frontline Fury, and then you have a 50% chance to get it with the feast matches. And the Fierce Fatalities, likewise, is going to be 60 wins for all of this, and so that is going to be a lot longer of a grind. And so given the Moogle Tomestone event, given the Garo gear, and given the Frontline event, I can strongly advise that the one avenue that you're really going to want to go with this is you're going to definitely probably want to be spamming Frontlines. That way you get Moogle Tomestones, you can turn that in for scrolls, and those honestly sell very well on the market board, and you can also be playing a class that you don't need to level. So essentially you are multiple dipping into, you're getting experience for a new character, you're getting Moogle Tomestones to change for gear, you're getting Garo points towards your achievement for all of your victories, and then you're getting PvP Wolf Marks that you're trading in for Garo gear. And so my personal advice and what I'm personally doing is I'm spamming Frontline until we finally get a due date for 5.1, and then I'm going to be spamming up to 60 in Feast. And I'm not going to go into the details of the Feast versus Frontlines, but essentially with the Feast Feast, you're in a 4 vs 4 PvP mode, and it's basically kind of duel to the death. And for Frontlines, you have 3 rotating maps. Each day there's only 1 map available, and say we have Seal Rock. Tomorrow we might have Borderlands Ruins or the Fields of Glory Shatter. And so all of these basically have objectives that I'm going to go into in different videos, and so you're going to really want to kind of optimize what you're doing here in terms of time, because 5.1 will be arriving in late October, so that's in a few weeks from now. In terms of what is going to be most optimal to get pure victories, if you're just going for that achievement and wolf marks, you're going to go for the Feast. And in my opinion, this is the highest time to wolf marks and time to win ratio by far, because the Feast lasts at most about 6 minutes, and you have a 50% win chance, so instantly you're just a lot better off if you're just going by pure RNG. And then for the Frontline one, in my experience, that lasts about 13-14ish minutes. Sometimes it can go for the full 20 on some maps depending on how all the teams play, but in reality that is going to be taking at least 2 to 3 times longer with a lower win rate chance. The flip side is you are getting Moogle Tomestones, and those are going to be traded for lucrative items so that you can get some good gil. It should be noted that when you are in PvP, you do have the ability set that is completely different, and so how you can access this is going into the character menu, into PvP profile, and then this is going to bring up kind of a, in my UI at least, a white screen to indicate that it's separate from your normal screen, and then you can go in under PvP actions, and then you have job, and then additional actions. Additional actions are essentially the exact same as role actions, and so you can choose 2 additional actions, and then you have access to all of the job actions. These, however, do act very differently than their normal PvE counterparts, and so do make sure that you spend a little bit of time and read over the skills. My personal advice is, as soon as you're in Wolf's Den Pier, is that you're going to be able to have PvP hotbars already brought onto your UI, and then you can move the skills onto here. You can kind of practice around and see how things go when dueling, or alternatively, you could just try it out in PvP and see what works and what doesn't. There are, of course, one advantage of PvP, kind of wish was actually in the main game, where they're actually going to compress all of your rotation down into a single button. I should note that quick chat is going to be something that's very important, especially for the Feast. When you're in that 4 vs 4 PvP mode, you're not actually able to type, and so you are actually going to have to use these specific commands for quick chat, for hello, good match, nice job, or attack range DPS, and so you're going to really need to drag these onto your bar and see. One last thing that I really want to bring to everyone's awareness before I finish this video is that you do have a daily challenge Frontline that you can queue for, and this is going to earn you a little bit more points. This is going to give you 1,000 more wolf marks, and then this does eventually add up, but in reality we're so close to the edge of 5.1 arriving here and Garo event not being here that you might want to spam this a little bit more. And then finally, one last tip that I want to show is that on your duty finder settings you can actually set it so that you have Frontline Freelancer, and in my experience this does make queues significantly faster. And so yeah, with all that being said, happy hunting, and hope to catch you on the next video. If you really enjoyed this content and want to help me, leaving a like, a subscribe, or a comment just saying what your thoughts are would really be super appreciated. Anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in.